A Clowder of Cats. I woke up again, in a cold sweat, my heart about to explode. A nightmare? The same nightmare? I heard noise from outside, the noise I had been dreading. Meow. A cat's meow. I got up, but didn't turn on the lights. Instead, I went to the window, parted the drapes, and looked out. Two cats sat at the edge of my driveway. One was a small black cat with yellow eyes, but the other cat was new. It was gray and scruffy, and was beating its tail against the hard, cold concrete. New, but I'd seen the gray cat before. It was meowing in time to the thud of its tail on the driveway. What was it doing? Calling the rest of the group? The Clowder? Last night, there was only one cat. The small black cat with yellow eyes. Tonight, there's two. And tomorrow night? I lay down on the bed, staring up at the darkened ceiling. I knew I wasn't going to sleep this night. I was afraid to sleep and to dream about cats. According to a study I came across on the net, your average domesticated house cat spends 4 hours a day trying to figure out how it might eat its owners, who, fortunately, are just a little too big. But they're thinking about it. Cats are carnivorous, predatory animals, not forever friends, although they might be friends for keeps. Still, I didn't always hate cats. Until that night. But now, I can't stand to be in the same room with one. I end up going to pieces. I broke up with my ex because of her cat, a silver tabby. You know, love me, love my cat. But I just couldn't stand how it was always underfoot and always around. I might have been able to deal with it. Until that night. This is what happened. Now, once upon a time, I was a hard-bodied, athletic young man, not the obese, chain-smoking slob I am today. What happened has left me unable to work, unable to function, sitting here, drinking alone in the dark. But 3 years ago, I was riding my bike on a long-distance trek along the old Talbot Trail on the north shore of Lake Erie. It's a sparsely populated farming area dotted with small towns. It was late afternoon, and I was riding through a particularly isolated stretch when I noticed a writhing band of grayish clouds churning over the dark waters of the lake. A storm was coming in off the water. A bad one. I'm going to get wet tonight, I said to myself. I'll be damn lucky if the tent don't blow down. And then, back from the road, I spotted a possible shelter in the form of an abandoned farmhouse and decided to check it out. I parked my bike on the sagging front porch. The front door was unlocked, and on entering what I suppose was the living room, I was pleasantly surprised at how clean and tidy it was. Instead of the usual broken bottles and graffiti, there was just a pile of old yellow newspapers on the hearth of an old stone fireplace. I was also pleased to find a table and an old chair firm enough to sit on. The windows were even intact. I had no sooner gotten inside when the storm hit, lashing my shelter with high winds and torrential rain. I was worried the rain might pour in through the roof and walls, but everything stayed dry. It got awfully dark, though, and cold. So dark I took some of the old newspapers and a few wooden boards I had found in a corner and started an impromptu fire. I was warming my hands over the flames when I was suddenly joined by a small black cat with lustrous yellow eyes. I was spooked at first, but once I realized it was merely a cat. Yeah, merely a cat. I said, "Where did you come from?" The little beast rubbed against my leg, purring, and then went to warm itself on the hearth. It was an almost domestic scene, and as it looked like I was going to be there for a while, I dug my paperback out of my knapsack and began to read by firelight. Just like Honest Abe Lincoln. It was my old, well-thumbed copy of the Selected Tales of Edgar Allan Poe, and I was just rereading the awful scene in The Black Cat, where the drunken narrator takes his penknife and... The scene made me wince, and looking up, I was much surprised to see we'd been joined by a second cat, a scruffy gray beast, which regarded me with cold, unblinking blue eyes. "Hello," I said, as the newcomer continued to stare at me. "Anyone else?" I had no sooner asked the question when I noticed an orange tabby crouched in a darkened corner on the other side of the room. "Well, I guess I won't have to worry about mice," I said to myself, as I didn't feel like making small talk at my companions, who were now all three staring at me. We sat in silence, and they didn't move when I got up to add more newspaper and scraps of wood to the fire. And as I sat musing, listening to the falling rain, I found myself thinking for some reason about Elizabeth Bathory, the vampire countess who liked to bathe in the blood of murdered virgins. The countess was eventually charged with witchcraft and the murder of over 650 girls, and walled up alive for her crimes. But before that, she used floods of howling and scratching cats as demonic familiars in order to attack her enemies. I came back to reality and saw the number of cats had doubled to 6. The new arrivals, dark felines of both black and gray, and all rather seedy in appearance. What is this? I asked myself. The revenge of the Countess Bathory? But she lived in Hungary, not in southern Ontario. Or are the cats pissed off because I've been reading Poe? Reading The Black Cat. The wind suddenly howled, or meowed, and the front door flew open to admit wind and rain and 6 more cats, who came up to me and, stopping at my feet, looked at me with an expression which said, "We're hungry." And then, from the various dark corners, 12 more, 2 more, cats, tabbies, orange, silver and taupe, solids, bicoloreds, tricoloreds, calicos, tortoiseshells, cats with bibs and cats with tuxedos, Siamese cats, plus pure white and pure black cats with yellow, green, or orange eyes, poured into the room, all of them looking towards me. And that's when the hissing started. I was on my feet and grabbing my backpack, was heading for the door, with cats nipping, butting, and pawing at my legs. As I forced my way through the increasingly crowded room, I tried to push the front door open, only to find it was blocked by a mewing and spitting mass of fur. When I finally crashed out into the porch, I found it crowded with cats who clawed at my arms, clawed at my eyes, even leaped on my head. Thank God I was still wearing my bike helmet. I grabbed my bike and staggered from the house, hoping they hadn't shredded the tires. Fortunately, there was still a light drizzle, which deterred my fastidious antagonists from chasing me. At first, but not for long. I got back to the main road and began pedaling like I had the hellhounds, or the hellcats, on my trail. The highway was slick, but the rain had finally ended, and the clouds parted to bathe everything in bright silvery moonlight. I looked over my shoulder. The abandoned farmhouse seemed to be haloed in a spectral yellowish light. Cat's eye yellow, black cat yellow. But that's not what caused me to cry out and pedal furiously for the protection of the next town. Instead, I cried out because the moonlight had shown the road behind me to be one dark moving mass, a carpet of cats, mewing, hissing, spitting, purring, and all running as fast as their forepaws could take them, and all after me. They were all after me. I was hoping a transport truck, or at least an SUV, would come along and wipe some of them out. But there was nothing. No cars, no people, nothing. On what was usually a fairly busy road. It was like the rest of the world didn't exist. It was only me and my feline pursuers. I rode and rode and rode and rode, praying at the top of my lungs, and eventually reached the lights of a small town. And when I went to look behind me, the cats were gone. Well, not all of them. For in the distance, I could see a small black cat with lustrous yellow eyes. Somehow I made it back to Western Canada, but I was never the same. And after 3 years, ended up as a recluse, hiding behind the curtains of my darkened home. The other night I saw it out there, on the sidewalk across the street. A small black cat with lustrous yellow eyes. And tonight there's 2. No, wait a minute. No, 3. They've been joined by the orange tabby, and they're all looking towards the house, towards me. What do they want? Simple. They want me. They want dinner. I hope this short tale hasn't put you off your dinner. Please drop a like and comment and consider subscribing for more night floaters and ghost stories of a librarian.